space is a place for us.
Real people with real issues.
Discussing real topics.
Black space.
A safe space for our community.
So let me clear something up right quick, all right? So yes, I am 200% a nerd, right? But I have learned how to compartmentalize, right? So it's like 7 o'clock where I am, and I'm not a nerd. Right? So I have no data right now. I have no statistics right now. Okay.
Hey Doc, real quick. I just narrowed down that you're in the 25% of the country. I didn't eliminate 75% of the country. So I'm getting close to figuring out where you at.
All right.
I'm down to 25% of the country.
You'll never never guess. And if you do, guess off camera.
I won't give it away.
Okay, I appreciate you. So I don't believe in alpha and beta at all. And if I'm in a lot of groups on Facebook that are geared towards people meeting or connecting at least. And if a man gets in my DMs and says something, I see you're not ready for an alpha male, no thank you, okay? Because the first rule of thumb is, first, I don't believe in alpha and beta, but if you're an alpha male, it never has to be announced.
Ooh.
Right. You never have to tell anyone that you're alpha, ever. Okay. Your characteristics show, because there are some men who have this quiet power. And when they walk in the room, they're there, right? And those generally, once you start talking to them, are what people have classified as alpha men. They have this, it's something that I love, okay? And you just see it and you know it. They never, ever, real alpha men have never, ever said to me, I'm an alpha male. So that's my first part on that. So when I hear that, I immediately kind of, like, really, y'all? That's what we got to do? So I immediately think that there's a level of insecurity from the speaker. Because I've never said to anyone, I'm an alpha female. I've never said to anyone what my job is. I don't lead with that because that's not important. What's important is my character, right? And how that comes across. So that's kind of my take on it. I'm sure some people don't agree.
Well, that's what makes this show exciting. The different perspectives. So that is a really interesting take. And that will help to bring a little extra seasoning to this recipe that we're discussing. So I want to keep in mind that the question we left off with is which male do we need most in our community in particular? And last week's guest also had mentioned that there's a third category, the gamma. So we might want to revisit that or bring that back in here. But now we actually have 4 categories. We have alpha, beta, gamma, and nothing.
We're gonna call them unspecified. We're not gonna call them nothing.
So we will discuss as if these labels do exist. And my first question is for the ladies: if the betas are who women statistically end up with on average for the long-term relationships, do they authentically respect them?
I'll let Janelle go.
Yeah, I would say for me, I wouldn't say just because a man is a beta that I don't respect him, because I'm a traditional woman where I believe in the man is the head of the household and he leads the family. So it doesn't matter whether or not he's a beta or an alpha. I still have that same respect to put them in the position to steer the ship, if you will. And I play my role accordingly as the woman of the household. So I don't think there's a difference there, George. So.
Doc Locks.
Um, so I was married, and our marriage was very traditional. Um, and I think if I were to marry again, it would still be traditional with a twist, because I'm not doing all of that work. Um, and I'm different because, well, I won't say I'm different. I have requirements, and because I have a preference for taller men, I tend to try not to date men who are 5'9", 5'10", because I might not have a wholeheartedly respect for them, right? Like at work I will, but at home I'm not sure that I will. And this has been a sore spot for a lot of people, and it gets very personal, because then they're like, how much do you weigh? Well, not a lot. And then they ask me how tall I am. But I think I'll go as far as to say, in marriages, traditional or not, I don't think women, um, more times than not, respect their husbands. Period.
Regardless of which type.
Hmm.
All right, so you said a lot there. First of all, with your preference for taller men, is that a preference just out of physical attractiveness, or is it a preference because you don't have respect for shorter men?
It is. I have tried to date shorter men, and their issues are so paramount that I can't. And I have a son that's 6'4". So 5'9", 5'10" might not get the respect from 6'4", right? Um, so I always keep that in mind too.
Would you consider a shorter man, even though you don't observe these categories, would you consider a shorter man to be of beta status?
Um, yes, initially, because they go out of their way to be the tallest person in the room, right? Like when you meet people, you know if they are comfortable in their skin, and you know almost immediately if they're secure. And more times than not, and this is my generalization and my observation, shorter men have a lot of anger issues, and I would rather not deal with it.
Anger issues, okay.
Mhm.
And
That's what I'm labeling it as. It might not be angry, right? It just might be aggression,
perception.
right? But for me, it's all in the anger issues pot.
Now, are these characteristics or traits that you associate with shorter men? Is it relative? Does this show up, like, say you have a man who's 6'2"
Hmm.
and a lady who's 6'5"? Will he then show short man those short man characteristics, or is it relegated to a specific height range?
For me, and like I'm being very clear so that I'm not misquoted. For me, it is for men who fall under 5'10".
I see.
Right. I think men who have a 6'5" woman, and they're 6'2", are okay with it, right? Because they wouldn't date her. Men always have preferences.
Right.
And more times than not, men do not waver on their preferences. If a man says, I don't like fat women, and he thinks a woman is fat, he's not going to date her. It doesn't matter how pretty she is. It doesn't matter how smart she is. It doesn't matter how much money she makes or how well she cooks or whatever. he's not going to date her because she's fat. So if a man has decided to date 6'5" and he's 6'2", I'm thinking he's okay with it.
Okay.
I
So-
find that most of the taller men, especially ones that are above 6'4", they know they're highly sought after, and they're not choosing everybody. They're choosing the dime pieces, the women that they can, have a trophy on their arm. So I don't know. I think, I used to be one of those people where height was a requirement. And then I realized, okay, am I being a little shallow? Should I give a short guy a chance? But
Why
I
you do that?
realized,
Why you got to be all the way down here?
well, you made them seem like they was down below this year or so. But anyway, so I mean, for me, I think, for me, I used to think like that in my 20s. That's just for me. And I feel like, am I being shallow? Because there's some really good men out here who are under 5'10". Yeah, some have complexes, but you have tall men who have complexes too, who are insecure. Yeah, they got all the women after them, but they're not the best things in the world either. Some of them broke, some of them still attached to their mothers. So I don't know. I kind of disagree with that. I think, if whatever height you are, as long as you're out here doing your thing, you can lead your family, alpha, beta. I just feel like for me personally, I would give somebody a chance that was, not tall, because that used to be literally at the top of my list, so.
Well, for those who are listening and watching, if we have some men who fall within that height criteria, please type in the comments and give us your perspectives. We want to give everybody a chance to represent. I mean, because everybody's coming from their experiences, right? And so this would be a great time to really dig into that. That's almost another show in and of itself that might end up being a spinoff from what we're talking about. So Penny, you have been an unbelievably well-behaved alpha.
I said, calm before the storm.
Unbelievable. So we're gonna let the leash off. What are your thoughts about what you've heard so far, and in regard to the question, the answer?
So dating is not symmetrical. The things that attract men to women are not the same thing that attract women to men. I think that a lot of women now are trying to move as men, and I think that as a result, they're unsuccessful in the dating market. And when I say unsuccessful, victories in the dating market is marriage, if that's what you seek, or if it's long-term relationship, then it's long-term relationship. But in my opinion, victory in the dating market is marriage. I think that dating, that's why you date. I think that's why people date to seek marriage, unless they just want to be on this carousel of dating for the rest of their existence, which I think is pointless, but that's my opinion. The idea that height determines attitude, you just said that all short men have Napoleon complex, which I find to be crazy. I don't think that that's true. I don't think there's anything to back that up.
I mean, those are my words. I don't think those are my words.
Well, you didn't say some.
You didn't. Yeah, you said all.
Experience. I said in my experience and in my observation. So I have not observed all. So I can't say that, and I won't say that.
Fair enough. But I still think that, I mean, how many guys have you dated that are under that height that can give you that qualifier that, there's enough that fall into that under those characteristics? I think that's crazy.
It's not even about dating. It's also about people that you encounter in the workplace, because there are behaviors that manifest there as well. It's about people that I've met at church. So
I mean, fair enough. I mean, that's your observation. I still think it's a very minute worldview. And that's a sharp criticism of short guys. So I'll come to their defense for a moment by saying that's just crazy. I don't think height has anything to do. Check that, strike that. Height, your physical characteristics certainly have some influence on your behavior, but weak people are weak people. Aggressive people are aggressive. Loud people are loud. Your physical characteristics has some influence on that, but I think it's very little. It's very little. That's like me saying all pretty women have attitude problems, because I've dated pretty women that have attitude problems, that are selfish and self-centered. but I would never say that pretty women are selfish and self-centered. That's a sharp criticism. But that's, and again, that's neither here nor there. The term, okay, so from a scientific social science standpoint, alpha and beta has been debunked, right? Because it came from the alpha wolf pack conversation. So there's but as social beings, we've repurposed it and said this is what it is and these are the characteristics. And so for that reason, based upon the social definitions of alpha, beta, yes, I will classify specifically men in that category. And sometimes I'll classify women in that category, although I think it's rather awkward because there's women that say I'm alpha. And I think that those women are a bit off, but that's just me. And I have my reasons for that.
So we're covering a lot of ground here. I just want to make sure that we iron out this one particular question about the level of respect that women say they have for the beta male. And Penny, both of the ladies here say that they have a consistent level of respect for that type of male. Does that ring true to you?
No, I mean, so let me expound on my response. I don't think so. Here's why. I think short term, women can respect the quote unquote beta guy, but I don't think they respect them long term. I think that, so let's look at the most, in my opinion, one of the most famous examples of a beta marriage, Will and Jada, right? So Jada was alpha widowed by Tupac, right? Alpha guy. And she has never gotten over Tupac. She married Will because Will is a safe choice, successful guy, good family guy. Although, in my opinion, his family is in disarray. There's no structure in that family. His kids are all over the place. His wife doesn't really respect him. She's with him for 20 years now? But she doesn't respect him. She has zero respect for him. And I think that ultimately that relationship is going to end in flames. He won't leave because he doesn't have a backbone to leave.
Black Space, a safe space for our community.